Well, new numbers show a dramatic increase in the number of people dying from cocaine overdoses. You know, the overdose rate nearly doubling since the year 2000. Researchers say it's because more people, they say, are using cocaine and the opiates at the same time, and some people may not even be aware of that. And in an effort to try and finally prevent the horrible opioid epidemic that's spread across the country, there's some new legislation that puts constraints on what doctors prescribe. Dr. Manny Alvarez is here on that. He's the senior managing editor for FoxNewsHealth.com. Dr. Manny, I mean, this causes such pain. There's such a tragic loss of life across the country because of this. And now in New Jersey, Governor Chris Christie has signed legislation that puts a 5-day limit on the prescriptions of opiates. And if you want it again, you got to go back to your doctor. What about this? And do you think this will help?
Well, listen, I think that this, it's a good idea because we have a global epidemic and we have a huge epidemic here in the United States. The numbers are off the charts. People are dying left and right, and in communities that you would have never expected. In New Jersey, for instance, we had 1,600 deaths from drug overdose in 2015, and if you look at the statistics in other states, it's astronomical. Now, this is a compounding problem. Because, yes, back, 10, 12 years ago, doctors were forced to pay attention to give prescriptions for pain excessively, I think, and that created a habit among doctors and among patients to rely on these drugs for pain relief. And, of course, once you become addicted, you can't blame the patient itself because they don't know what to do. They go, shopping from one doctor to the next. So the legislation in New Jersey limits the number of days that you can receive narcotics to 5 days, which is the most stringent policy, and I think this is a good idea. There was a lot of complaints by doctors. This is going to interfere between the patient and the doctor, and the reality is no, because we have carve-outs in New Jersey. If you have cancer, if you have, end-of-life situations or something of that sort, you can prescribe more medication. So for the practical, everyday surgical patient, 5 days, I think, is more enough. The problem is that they can come to New York and get prescriptions. They can go to Pennsylvania and get prescriptions. So I don't think that this is going to be the solution to our epidemic.
So what do you think the solution would be?
Well, look, the solution has to be, number one, like President Trump, has to focus on reducing the drug that is being brought from the outside. If you look, for instance, the use of heroin, you could buy heroin now for $8 and you can get it at 1-800-HEROIN. And that has replaced a lot of the prescription pills for some patients that are looking for relief. So we still have an influx of drugs coming into this country, and that has to be stopped. And then, yes, more drug treatment centers, more legislation to make sure that we have electronic ways of monitoring prescription overuse by patients and doctors, and hopefully this will bring down the epidemic.
Don't call 1-800-HEROIN. That's for sure. It's not a real number.
It doesn't ring.
No. But you do raise a terrific point that's spot on, and it has to do with the widespread availability, not only of illegal drugs, but also of the opiates. I mean, is there an answer for the opiates beyond the 5-day? 3 other states have 7 days, New York, Maine, and Massachusetts. Right. But a lot of other states, as you say, it's unlimited.
And look, and one of the problems with the illicit drugs is that they're not pure. People buy a lot of times, look at cocaine, for instance, which in itself, it's a very bad drug. But now it's laced with things like fentanyl, which is an artificial type of opioid, and all of a sudden people think that they're doing something that they think that is kind of relatively safe, and all of a sudden it's being contaminated with another kind of narcotic. They stop breathing. So also this is why every police department right now across the country has to have this injection, naloxone, which is the antidote, because, again, this is, right now, we have to save lives, because we have an epidemic.
And bottom line, quickly, you think that the best way is this type of law, 5 days, perhaps, for an opioid?
Well, again, I don't think it's going to be the panacea that everybody expects, but it's a good beginning. I give an A+ for effort to Governor Christie.
All right. Dr. Manny Alvarez, good to see you. Thank you for your insights. Certainly, our hearts go out to the victims of this horrible epidemic, and hopefully there'll be some answers. Thank you.